olive oil scam with Ananus when he was up in Galilee. Ananus was down in Jerusalem in the earlier period, 66 period. Ananus isn't killed till 68. When the Zealots, when the war gets into its, what I would call Jacobin phase or Jacobite phase, when it gets into its extreme phase. And they they burn all the debt records from the rich versus the poor. They burn all the high priest palaces. They burn all the Herodian palaces. It's a real social revolution. That's why Josephus is really important. Not that he approves of any of that stuff. Now, what am I getting at? Why is Josephus upset about his friend? Well, the Zealots take this Ananus and along with his friend, both former high priests who they obviously blame for something, and I think, well, clearly they stripped them. He doesn't say as much, but I think they urinated on them. And probably, what do you do when you mutilate dead bodies, desecrate their dead bodies? Because he makes it clear that they did something bad to their dead bodies, and then they flung them naked out of the city walls, down in the valley below, without burial, as food for jackals. And he says that. Hey, now look here. That's why. Am I wrong, you think, in reading Josephus along with his maternal? I think you should do. You've got some serious internecine strife going on here. You follow what I'm trying to say? And that bears on the situation. Well, what is going on here? How do these people hate each other so much? You know, why do they treat each other like this? It's like Baghdad. Yes, right? And then finally, bang, bang, bang in your head. Who is Ananus? Ananus is the son of that Ananus who is portrayed in the Gospels as in the trial of Jesus. He's the high priest that is involved in the condemnation of Jesus, supposedly, anyway, according to the picture of the Gospels. And his son Ananus ben Ananus is particularly known for one other particular point. What was that? He's the high priest that arrested James, Jesus' brother, and trumped up a Sanhedrin trial against him on blasphemy charges or whatever, and had him executed by stoning. I think we have the cause of the antagonism to the Ananus family. What do you mean Jewish revolutionaries are angry at the same people that Christians are angry at? What does that tell you? And the Jewish revolutionaries are actually the popular party, and they throw this guy out of the city without burial, as food for jackals, naked. Whether they urinated on him or whatever, I don't know. But I think they went that far because he says they upbraided his dead body in an impious manner before they did this. Both of these two, that Josephus' friend and this other guy, I don't think Josephus really liked this other guy. He was only upset about his friend. But then he said, this is the start. He said, because of these impious acts, he thinks God condemned the Jews to destruction. He says, just like the New Testament says. And that therefore their temple, and etc., was going to be condemned, and they have only themselves to blame. The exact same approach that the Gospels take on the Jewish mob, as it portrays the Jewish mob in Matthew, saying, his blood be upon us and our descendants in perpetuity. See, I contest these points on the basis that I think, which Jewish mob are you talking about? The establishment bunch who were hated by the mass, or the mass who was involved in movements like the Jesus movement and all the other charismatic leader movements, and was also involved in the war against Rome, and in the latter part were the poor against the rich, and took over the debt records and burned the palaces and burned the high priestly and threw these priests out into the valley, those responsible for people like Jesus and people like James's death. That's why they threw them out, in my view, without burial. That's all. So that, to me, shows popular support. So I go back to Mr. John. He's writing this from overseas, I think, and has only a very superficial view of what was going on in Palestine at this time. It's like having George Bush talk to us about Iraq, okay? I know, that should hit home for some of you. I think George Bush knows more about Iraq than this guy knows about Palestine. Anyway, leave it at that. So you get my point here. You can take it or leave it. I am not telling you these things for you to parrot me. I'm telling you these things to try to challenge you to make your own view, okay? Because this is how we're going to get to the history. Now, if you want to take this statement as authentic, you don't have to go any further. You got the whole story. So, you know, it is as we've heard it, and so on and so forth. So you have to, we're going to stop at all those kinds of statements, and I didn't know I was going to stop there today, but we're going to stop there and discuss them. Anyway, but as many as received, so you get what the implication of that particular statement is, right? But as many as received him, my translation may not agree with yours, and this is just what's given to me in this book, so let's not worry about the actual imprecise translation unless it differs markedly, okay? As many as received him, to them gave he the right to become children of God, even to them that believe in his name. Now that's interesting, children of God, sons of God, that, you know, for the Jews in this period, all the righteous ones were sons of God. It's in, I think, the book of Proverbs, or one of those books, I think it's Proverbs. It might be in, I think it's Proverbs. You can look it up in a concordance, look up, you know, righteous ones, children of God, and you'll find the passage in the Bible. But in the Dead Sea Scrolls in particular, there are scrolls that make it very clear that as you became perfectly righteous, you become like a son of God. And the righteousness was very important to the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, Paul is quite interested in who the children of God are. Is it the Jews through descent from you know, the flesh, or is it some spiritual thing, children of the promise? Can you be an adopted son of God or son of Abraham or whatever? All these are floating around in the background, so that's an important statement. So they were not born, nor of the blood, nor of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. I think this is very close to Paul in Romans. So this is, to my, again, already, if it's not parallel to Paul, it's Paulinized, okay, to some extent. So John and Paul are already almost side by side on this theological approach. You say, what chapter should I read in Romans? Well, like read chapters 4 to 12, and you'll get all of Paul's things